What they're gonna drill though is. Okay, so they're already on.
Apologize for that slight delay. I think Beth is ready to go and has probably started the live broadcast already, so if you want to take your roll calls, start the meeting, Councilor Moore.
Yeah, I didn't pick up my agendas. Usually she brings them out.
Oh, sorry, they're on the table.
You can borrow mine.
Counselor Gibbs is just coming on.
I'd like to call the City Infrastructure Committee meeting for December to order now. Have a roll call.
Counselor Moore,
Here.
Counselor Gibbs,
Here.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Brody.
Here.
They will now have the reports from department representatives and discussion with the councilors. Mike?
Well, at this time, obviously, we've had some snow, so snow season started. Done some road treating. We had 2 water main breaks in the last week and a half. Those have been taken care of, and 1 valve leak on a cross connection that we put.
Mike, can you go for the microphone?
Go to the mic.
Sorry, yeah, microphone. Sorry.
So we've started with our snow and ice season. A little bit of plowing, a little bit of treating yesterday. Ongoing water maintenance work, a couple leak repairs. Probably anticipate, I would say this is the time of year we get a transition. We'll probably have a few more before we get into the cold weather. Then the men will be working, doing probably some sewer camera survey work, weather depending. We'll try to get out and do that, and also do hydrant maintenance. And again, that's a weather dependent thing, but we start picking through hydrants that need service. So that's pretty much it for right now.
So you've been clearing brush down at the mouth of the river, huh?
Yeah, the grounds crew continues on with that. We're doing fence lines a little bit down there by the launch off of Green Street. We did, we're gonna probably do Terry Gordon again, Karen Fleury, all those. This is a good time of year to do it. So.
Holy. Well, I'm wishing you a snowless winter, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
going to happen.
It is what it is. We'll make the best.
Did anyone else have any questions for Public Works before Mike, please? Can you hear me, okay, Elizabeth? And
Oh, yeah. You guys are coming in super clear.
well, thank you, Mike.
The wastewater plant, our second belt filter press has been installed. It's not all the way up and running and everything yet, but it's in. Final piping's being done and controls hooked up, and we're hoping in the next few weeks that'll be through startup, and then we can start closing out the project on that part of the work. The architectural design work's progressing. The new disinfection building and odor control upgrades design is over 60% complete. We're hoping for a late winter, early spring bid to get that on the street, so when the weather breaks in the spring, we can start digging holes and getting the foundations in and getting that project moving. On the drinking water side, our well driller is mobilizing for the further development of one of the test wells that was already installed. I think they're going to be doing that work next week. They're bringing their equipment out this week. And then shortly thereafter, they should be drilling the final test well out there. And the design of that new well field, the transmission lines to it and the power supply, that's all progressing. And we're hoping that's going to be ready to go sometime in the spring. And we're also preparing for more grant applications for the Drinking Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, wastewater, WIA, and the DEC's Water Quality Improvement Program. The announcements for those applications hasn't been made yet, but we want to be prepared with all the engineering reports and documents and everything else so that when they do announce it, we're ready to go. So those are the highlights. Any questions?
Maybe update us on your COVID-19 testing regimen and how that's going.
So we're still sampling the influent to the wastewater plant. We were collecting samples Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and having all three of those analyzed separately. The lab is overwhelmed, so we're actually collecting samples, I believe it's Friday, Saturday, mixing that together as a composite, and then having one sample a week analyzed. The results have been up and down. 3 weeks ago, they were down, the levels were down around maybe 8,000 or 9,000 colonies per liter. The next week, the results we got, we actually had a duplicate, the lab did a duplicate. Every now and then they'll take the same sample and run it twice. One of those results was about 17,000, which was suggesting maybe an uptick was happening, but the duplicate was only 9,000. So we weren't really sure what to make of that. But then most recently, last week, that result was, I think that was around 19,000 also. So it seems like there's an uptick in what's coming in on the wastewater, whether that's predictive of some more positive test cases in the community, we don't know. It really remains to be seen.
Well, I know, John, you might want to explain to people too, the people here, we have belt filter presses, and how that directly relates to how much we pay for the sludge that we truck out. I mean, in the old days, people used to dry that stuff, and that created odors and problems. But these belter, because I'm sure no one really pays much attention to that, but it's a very important part of the process, and it directly affects how much it costs for us to treat our.
So all this stuff that gets removed in the wastewater treatment process becomes what we call sludge. That sludge is a liquid. It's kind of a very weak milkshake. We run that through a machine called a belt filter press. Prior to going through that machine, it's conditioned with a polymer. So when it goes through the machine, that really dilute mixture of solids and water, the water starts to drain out very quickly, and it's just clumpy solids that are remained. The belt filter press then squeezes that clumpy material together in a mesh and squeezes more water out of it. So the less water you have, that's the less that you're transporting and paying to dispose of at the landfill. So the trick is to get as much water out of that sludge as you can. These new belt filter presses not only are replacing old ones that had seen better days and were becoming unreliable, but they also are a lot more efficient. So we're seeing an increase in our sludge, in our solids content from say 20 to 25%. Which may not sound like a lot, but it's actually a significant reduction in the amount of water that we were transporting and paying to dispose of. So running some very preliminary numbers, if things keep going the way they've been going, we could see a reduction in transport and tip fees that would at least be equal to, if not more than, the bond payment on these new belt filter presses. So we're really excited about that. And generally, as time goes on, you get to know your machinery a little better, and you can run it even more efficiently. So we're hoping in the long run, it'll actually not only cover the bond payment, but be a significant savings.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
I had two questions. One, was about the COVID-19 virus that's in the feces.
Okay.
Second, how dangerous is it for Public Works that may have to work on this? And how dangerous is this for
For our
your,
folks at the plant, it's a good question. When COVID first started, it was a question that we all had. First of all, there's all kinds of pathogens in wastewater. So we deal with that every day, and we've got protective measures in place. And what we've learned from the scientists and all the literature available is basically once the COVID virus exits the body in the feces, the genetic markers of the virus are still there, but it's no longer contagious or able to communicate the disease. So it seems like, as far as disinfecting or deactivating that virus, your body does a pretty good job of it. A sewer system is also a very harsh place for a lot of pathogens. So if there's any additional virus there, it get beat up. So basically, by the time it gets into the sewer to the plant, it's not known to have any potential contagious effects.
I just remember reading an article where in Japan, there was an apartment house and the gentleman downstairs had COVID and the lady 4 stories above him caught it because she had an indirect air vent line and it flowed through the air. And I was like, wow. So I was just curious about that. The other one is kind of like a budget question a little bit. I spent some time with Mr. Kelly yesterday, and we were looking at the possibility of relocating transferred funds. And have you seen the new numbers that may be transferred to?
I haven't.
No. And of course, the other question had been, would that affect the sewer rate for everybody in the city?
It depends what the numbers are. If you're going to transfer more money than's been transferred in the past, obviously that's going to put more stress on the sewer fund or the water fund if that's done also. Would it result in an immediate need for a sewer rate increase? Depends on what the level of transfer is from that sewer fund.
Councilman Clay, do you remember what that amount was?
I have a question regarding COVID-19. Are the data that's being collected, is that being posted anywhere, like on our city website, for example?
I don't believe it's being posted. It's being sent to the health department for interpretation. The mayor gets copies of the data. The interpretation of the data, you probably heard me say a couple months ago, is probably as much of an art as it is a science.
Yes.
A lot of the scientific community, depending on what people's roles are, some people are more confident in making determinations from data than others are. But as far as using that data to really say, here's exactly what's happening in your community, and here's what we can predict in the future, there's a variety of opinions on that.
Do you think it's possible to post the raw data just so we can see the results from the lab tests?
I'll probably defer that decision to the mayor. Some communities have decided to post it and let the public interpret it on their own for what they think it's worth. Other communities have decided that it might not be in the people's best interest to have that raw data and maybe misconstrue it and view it in a way that's not really appropriate.
The reason I bring this up is because I got an email today from a constituent who asked, what's going on with that? Are we doing it? And I couldn't give him a lot of details, unfortunately, because I don't know much about it myself. But I did say that, yes, we are testing, but it would be nice to know what's happening with those tests.
I think it's important for people to know that we are testing and that data is being shared with the people who are best in position to interpret it and then take action if they feel action's necessary. At my level or even our level here, I can't say that I have a high confidence level saying, all right, here's exactly what it means and what you should be doing. There's a whole host of experts with the Department of Health and Department of Environmental Conservation and the medical community that are really in a lot better position to take that wastewater data and interpret it in the context of all the other stuff they're seeing, like positive test results in the community, maybe how many visits there are to the emergency room, how much ibuprofen's being purchased. There's a lot of other pieces of information that need to be pulled together with our COVID data. So again, some communities have said, hey, we're just going to put the data out there and let people try to figure it out for themselves and maybe get it wrong. Or we're going to take that data and give it to the experts who are in a lot better position to provide an interpretation.
And is SUNY doing testing also?
Not wastewater, but testing of employees and students weekly, yeah.
Okay, but there's no wastewater testing going on at SUNY.
Well, I think you guys are working with SUNY.
Yeah, they talked about it. The last I talked to them was a month or so ago about testing wastewater. I don't believe they were collecting wastewater from any of their lines and sending that out for testing.
I talked to somebody from SUNY not too long ago. They were looking at it, but they had too many points where their sewers were exiting. So there would be too many collection points for them to sample from.
Okay, thank you, John.
Welcome. you have another question or?
I was just, Counselor Kelly, when we met, we had the new figures for tentatively what you were going to have as a transfer fund from water and sewer. Remember?
Yes. I do remember.
Did you get that from Mr. Rolfe?
I talked to Mr. Marks today, and I have a little better understanding of it myself, Steve. So I'd be happy to share that conversation with you as well.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Being no further questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to move items 1 through 6 to the agenda.
Before you move number 4 to the agenda, I think you need to fill in some information. This has to do with the provisional appointment of Michael Passett to the superintendent's position. The moving up to the next range is automatic. It goes along with the promotion. He's currently at step 11. That's the second to highest step. There is one other step you could go to at your discretion. Normally I would put in step 11, but I told him that I'd be happy to entertain if the council wanted to put him at the maximum step. So there's an incomplete resolution to move forward right now. So I would recommend you have that conversation now before it gets voted on or moved to the agenda. It's called max. Yeah.
Well, I would, I hope this doesn't seem indelicate to have this conversation, you know, publicly. We're dealing with salary and payroll and so forth. So forgive us if it does seem that way, but these are conversations that we have to have publicly. I am in favor of granting the max. I think Mike has been an excellent employee. He has been an excellent supervisor. I understand he hasn't been the top manager of the department, but he has been excellent. I think that this would be a different conversation if we were hiring somebody new, but he has already proven himself to be an excellent employee. And I would be in favor of granting the max.
Anyone else have any comments?
I would second Elizabeth's notion. The gentleman does the job, he deserves the pay.
Yeah, I think this would have been more appropriate to deal with
It is
in the work
certainly
session or
It is
in.
certainly possible to discuss this in executive if you want to have a more candid discussion. But then we'd have to go to executive and deal with all of the logistics of that, so it's up to you guys.
Which we can do. I mean, we've got 3 people coming in, excuse me, by Zoom. And then the rest of you, I mean, we're still part of the meeting. We could communicate by cell phone if we don't have a Zoom link ready. I'm just making that as a suggestion. But you're right. It should have been a complete resolution before it came up. But it does need to be decided before it moves forward to council. Jeff, what would you like to do? Would you like to move this to executive or, because we do have to have something on there so it can be moved forward. What would you
Well,
like to do?
I think we should. It's not appropriate to bring up in a public meeting, I don't think, you know, terms of employment or anything like that.
Right? Do we want to do this? We can do it by phone. You know, we can stay on the Zoom link, but we can have the communication by phone in executive session because we don't have another Zoom link available for us to communicate. That's why I'm suggesting that.
Just as a practical matter, this was discussed briefly at a pre-legal meeting, and I don't know if we're gonna get any more benefit from having a further discussion. It seemed like there was a fair and full discussion, even though it was brief, ahead of time. Whether there's any benefit, I'll defer to the council, but if not, then it seems like there was already voices being heard.
Well, then I think we should complete the resolution and move it forward to the agenda. I would like to see Max put on the item.
Well, if no one else has any different feelings, I would do that.
Okay,
It's not a vote. We wouldn't have a vote on it.
no, we'll vote on it when it comes up tonight.
Correct.
All right, so why don't we put that on there and then we can cast the vote. So,
No vote. Was everyone agreeable with that?
Yes?
Or maybe we should put it, if anyone doesn't agree with it, should speak up.
well, it's our meeting, Jeff, so if you and I agree, then I say it goes on, and then it's up for debate when it goes forward on the agenda for a vote.
Okay, so what do we need to pencil in here?
Max,
Like, yeah, step max?
that's what it's called, yeah.
Oh, it is
Step
called that.
maximum.
Okay. I didn't think there was something called that. All right, very good. Okay, with that added into the blank, and then I'd still entertain a motion to move items 1 through 6 to the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Roll call?
Counselor Moore,
Yes?
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Yes.
Okay, on the, was that to put the max step in there, or was that to move all the items to the agenda? I think it was.
I think move them all
Okay,
forward.
very good.
Right, so the item was left blank, go ahead and put it in there. And then the motion is to move all those items, 1 through 4, to the agenda.
1 through 6, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm looking at the agenda that was given to me yesterday.
Oh,
Well, it's been
Whoops. Yeah.
it's been 2 editions.
Oh, okay, then I'm not looking at an updated agenda. When did that come out?
I don't know, probably today sometime.
All right, so
I'll send it to you right now again, Elizabeth.
yes, if you would, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the one that was sent out last night. It must have gotten buried.
Beth, could you send it to me too? I seem to be looking at an old one as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Beth.
Okay, I'll wait.
Yeah, I think our motion's in limbo. Hang on just a second.
I'll wait until everyone gets a copy.
There it is. Okay. Okay, now I've got it. Okay, so,
Okay, let's entertain a motion to move items 1 through 6 to the agenda.
I will make that motion.
I'll second. Colin second. Roll call? Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Yes.
Is there any old business that anyone needed to bring up?
Yes, actually, Patrick actually brought this up by email. And this has come up before, but we don't seem to have a full resolution of this issue. We keep getting letters from, is it Lake Cityville? I'm not sure what the name of it is, but complaints about the water rates. Jeff, have you looked into this or found a resolution to, or has anybody communicated back to them? I don't know where we are with this, but we do continue to get letters, and I want to make sure that something is being communicated back to them so we can resolve this issue. So have you communicated with them, or is there a resolution to this? Can you fill us in?
Yes, John has been communicating with them. We have talked about it. And, he could probably explain it as well as I could, where we're at with that.
John, could you come to the microphone? Yeah, thank you so
Sure.
much.
As far as the concerns that have been expressed from by Lake Country Village, I've had a number of discussions with their treasurer, a number of exchanges of emails trying to flesh through what the charge is and why it's being assessed and whether it's being assessed correctly and whether it's fair. And I can share that correspondence with you if you'd like. The last I heard was that he was going to take it back to the board for them to make a determination about whether they think the charge is fair or not. I think it's pretty clear. I think we are on the same page as far as how it's computed and why it's computed the way it is. Now the question becomes whether, I guess, they perceive it as fair or not. I mean, it could be that everybody else in the city that has the new IDC might be feeling the same way, but it's kind of where we left it.
Yeah, it was kind of framed a little incorrectly that the difference in payments is not huge. It's not like $100 more per month or anything like that. It's pretty in line with what other people are paying, I think.
Yeah, and one of the objections was to the term that was used. The term that was used to frame this in the local law is called an infrastructure demand charge. And that term can be viewed differently depending on whether you're in the private utility business or the public utility business. So there was some confusion there and some disagreement about whether, what a demand charge really is and all that kind of thing. I'll pull that information together and I'll get it out to you. And then if we want to get together and have some discussions about the details and nuances, that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
But it is being looked into, Councilor Gibbs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other old business? If not, we will proceed to new business. Does anyone have any new business for the infrastructure group? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Roll call.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Mayor Reed,
Yes. Let's then begin with our work session. We've got a few minutes of work session. Maybe we can complete our various reports. Beginning with government strategy and city operations, Councilor Brody.
There's nothing new to report at this time.
And Councilor Moore for city infrastructure.
We just had our meeting, so anyone can view what we did today.
Councilor Kelly for finance and budget.
Nothing new.
Councilor Gibbs for public safety.
No, I have nothing to report.
Gloucester Public Library, Councilor McFarland.
No updates at this time.
And MLD Board President, Councilor McFarland.
No updates at this time.
Any additional discussion you'd like for any of the items on the agenda tonight? Would you like to then resume in 7 minutes at 5 p.m.? Thank you.
Can be very quiet in here at times.
Losing people left and right. They're filling the stadium.
Yeah, sometimes quiet's good, huh? Just under 1 more minute. Let's begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
United States of
And to the republic for which it stands.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed,
Present.
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Gibbs,
Here.
Counselor Brody,
Here.
Counselor McFarland,
Here.
Counselor Moore,
Here,
Just a shortcoming, this may be my last in-house meeting. Next week I'll be traveling a little bit, but I'll try to zoom in for that one, unless I can make it in person. But and obviously wonderful meeting with you in person. Thank those that kept meeting with me in person throughout the whole COVID thing. It was pretty lonely sometimes for Beth and I in this room or in this building at Council Nights. And it really is nice to see the various councils here when we do our sessions. And I'm glad that we've always had access to the public throughout the COVID, but very carefully managed the social distancing. So thank you all for working with me in that. And I think Zoom has gone as efficiently as it possibly can. It creates some challenges, but thank you all for rising to that as well. Appreciate it. That's all my comment. Please continue, Beth.
resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on December 3rd, 2020 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Brody and seconded by Councillor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending December 9th, 2020, in the amount of $54,894.21 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Moore, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You've got your routine reports in your packets for today, and you've given your additional committee reports. Are there any additional reports you'd like to offer this time? Seeing none, resolve the reports as listed are hereby ordered received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Gibbs and second by Councilor Brody. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's no correspondences or recommendations from boards at this time. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the common council for the week ending December 11th, 2020, in the amount of $3,504,303.89 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Moore, second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Is there any persons wishing to address the council on items on the agenda tonight? Ethan, anybody on the wait list?
Currently, there is no one on the wait list.
Okay, thank you. Please continue then.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the common council approves that bid 2 Ford Ranger XL Super Cabs be awarded to Metro Ford Sales, Inc. in the amount of $50,722.94.
Moved by Councilor Moore and second by Councilor Gibbs. Discussion.
Yeah, can we get an explanation on this?
Bill isn't here right now, but he did brief me. These are a couple of end of the year budget purchases. He's got them in his budget, and he only just today got the bids for them. He had put them out for bid. These are a couple of heavy duty pickup vehicles for MLD.
Yeah, I believe these are the vehicles he discussed with us at the last MLD board meeting. This is just he was talking about how he needs to get the 2 trucks. I think these are just the bids, right? That's correct, right, Mayor?
To accept the bids, yeah. And he regretted they didn't give you more time, but he only got this today. And so we'll probably see a purchase order to follow this up next week on this. Any further discussion or questions? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
I'd like to rename Tim Sapitsky as the designated assessor for the city of Plattsburgh effective January 1, 2021 for the duration of the term of the contract with the County of Clinton pursuant to RPTL Section 1537. And I think you're all familiar with Mr. Sapitsky's work. He reported to this committee a number of times. Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
No, but I'm doing this with not so much against Mr. Pinsky as the fact that I object to the county being in charge of our property taxes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
I'd like to also fill the recently vacated position. Mayor hands down the appointment of Patricia Hoffman to the Board of Assessment Review for a 5-year term to begin on December 11, 2020 and expiring on September 30th, 2025. And a little bit of background. She used to be the chair of the zoning board, so she has a fair amount of familiarity with this subject matter. Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
I'd like to hand down the provisional appointment of Michael Bissett to the position of superintendent to the Department of Public Works, the salary set at range 14, step max of the manager's basic salary schedule effective December 11th, 2020. Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Please continue.
Dean, do you have to do the secret review first?
You want to read the agenda item?
Adoption of local law P-4 of 2020, a local law amending chapter 300 subdivision of land and chapter 360 zoning of the city code of the city of Plattsburgh to provide exemptions for city projects. This local law shall take effect immediately upon approval by the mayor and filing with the New York Secretary of State. The entire text of which has been distributed to and read by the members of the Common Council is hereby enacted without the reading thereof, and a copy of said local law is made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Moved by Counselor Gibbs.
Before we make the motion, Mayor, we do have some, I just want to review the procedural history for everyone's benefit and also take care of some procedural steps, and then we can move to item itself. So as the council will recall, back in early October, this local law was introduced. At the, 2 weeks after its introduction, we completed a public hearing. We did receive a few comments from certain members of the community. After that public hearing was completed, there was a resolution to refer this matter to the county planning board pursuant to General Municipal Law 239M. The county planning board did review it. They did disapprove this local law, which puts it back to this chamber. And if this body is going to approve it, it does require a supermajority approval. Before any action is taken, however, it is recommended that we complete a secret review. So first, we would need a motion to deem local law P4 an unlisted action with the common council serving as lead agency.
Do I have a motion? Counselor Moore, second by Counselor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Please continue.
Okay, so as we've done in the past, when we do a secret review, first we look at part 1 of the short form environmental assessment form. And under that form, because this is the sole action is the adoption of a local law, we are permitted to skip over all the site specific, the more typical secret review for a specific project, because the only actual action is a legislative action. So with that, we then turn to part 2, which is the impact assessment. And that is the infamous questions that this body needs to review and take a hard look at any potential adverse environmental impacts. So the previous advice, and I'll relay it again, is that we need to review each specific question and not vote on each specific question, but see if we can form a consensus. And then at the end of that exercise, we can take a vote on the entire action itself. So if that all makes sense, I will do it as efficiently as possible and read each question. And then we can just generate hopefully some discussion. The options, and I did circulate this earlier, so everyone may have it. If you're on Zoom, you may have it in front of you based on prior email, or for you guys, I'll read them out. But the 2 choices are whether or not the answer to each question is no or small impact, or alternatively moderate to large impact. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
So again, this action itself is just the local law. It is not a site-specific action. The first question is whether the proposed action will create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation. Okay, so Councilor McFarland shaking his head. Does everyone agree with Councilor McFarland that this would have a no or a small impact?
No impact.
No impact.
Okay, question 2. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land?
No impact.
No.
And just for the public's benefit, and it's explicitly stated in this local law that any actual action in the future that's site specific would still be subject to seeker or any other federal regulations such as SHPO or anything else. So there'll be future review based on any actual action, any tangible action. Question 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Oh,
No.
4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? Just for context, there are no CEAs in Clinton County.
No.
no,
5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
Can we answer that? I mean,
It may not be applicable because again, it's a legislative action, but
right. So I guess it's a no.
the answer is no. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
no,
No.
Okay. 7, there's part A and B. I'll just read them both. Will the proposed action impact existing A, public/private water supplies, B, public/private wastewater treatment utilities?
No.
no,
8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
no,
9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
no,
10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
Last one, 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
no,
Okay, so having completed part 2, in which all boxes under no or small impact may occur were selected, we could entertain a motion to determine that the proposed action of local law P4 will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts and authorize the mayor to sign part 3 of the EAF accordingly.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second,
Second by Counselor Kelly. Any further discussion? And obviously, there's been a lot of discussion getting to this.
This is
point.
just the seeker, of motion on the seeker, so let's finish that up. Okay.
This
All in
isn't,
favor? Oh, better do roll call.
Roll call, this is just the seeker.
Just the seeker, roll call on the seeker analysis we just completed.
Counselor Kelly,
yes,
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes,
Counselor McFarland,
yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Okay, so we've reviewed the procedural history. We just completed that procedural step. So now, Mayor, you can, I cut you off earlier. You were asking for a motion to move the actual item.
So move the actual item. Motion. Counselor Moore, second. Counselor Gibbs, further discussion.
Oh,
All right,
yes.
so now we're having discussion on the law itself now?
Correct.
Okay, so I think that, well, just for clarity, when this came up the first time, I voted no. Because I had some questions. So I see that Milena is, she's one of the panelists in the Zoom conference. So I did speak with her about this. Maybe some explanation on this local law would be really helpful right now. But it's really clear that this is not, and I know this was a huge concern when this came up the first time, that this is not in any way going to impact anything regarding the Prime project. Would that be correct?
Correct.
And I think that's an important distinction because I think there is a general assumption by some people out there, and I think that needs to be very clear. This is not a move to try and maneuver the Prime project in and around, any previous decisions or board decisions or so forth. That this is on its own a different law. So, Milena, if I'm explaining it wrong, please chime in.
Hello, everybody. No, you're absolutely correct. Unfortunately, I've said this from the beginning that it's very bad timing introducing this local law right now because we still are in the middle of trying to get the Durkee Street project through the review board process. So I've had some pretty in-depth conversations with the planning board about this local law because rightly so, they were concerned and had some thoughtful questions. So what I did for them is I tried to explain the impacts of this local law. And the first thing I did was I printed off a map to give them, which showed all of the city-owned property. A majority of that property is parklands, which cannot be developed without legislative action. And a lot of the other property is utility infrastructure. And the two main properties that will be impacted by this local law are one, the Harborside property, and two, the Reeves Lane property if successfully annexed. So considering both of those properties and the impacts, I explained to them further that the city is not in the development business. The city does own some significant property, and the immunity that they would achieve through this local law would be simply for subdivision of that property, not development. And any subsequent development of that property would still have to go through the planning board site review process. It'd have to achieve, any variances through the ZBA that were required. So essentially the impacts are quite minimal and would only pertain right now at this moment to those two properties and the subdivision review process, not for any subsequent site plan development. And again, some other questions came up like, okay, so why does the city not have to be held to the same development standards that other developers are held to? And again, I talked about, the impacts, which are just subdivision, not site plan review. And basically that the city is trying to get through this process a little bit quicker for the public benefit. So of course, making money is great, but the city wants to promote economic development of these properties in a timely fashion for the public benefit. And I think, the planning board understood that. And I think they were pretty much satisfied at this point. It's just, like I said, it was really bad timing introducing this local law when there's a lot of opposition to the Durkee Street project right now. I know there is a section of the local law, I think the last section, that explicitly states that any pending applications in front of the boards right now, this local law does not impact those. So the Prime project, as you stated, Councilor Gibbs, will not be impacted by this local law.
Thank you, Melina.
Any further discussion?
I have a question for Melina. If the Prime project was to fail and somebody else was to come up with another proposal, would this law take effect then?
It actually, it wouldn't. So there are 3 applications in front of the planning board right now. There's an application for a minor subdivision of the Durkee Street property, which will separate off the Broad Street parking lot from that main Durkee lot. And then there's a PUD subdivision, which is essentially creating that PUD boundary so that the site plan can happen. So the city could potentially not have to get approval or review by the planning board or zoning board to create those 2 lots, which would be the Durkee Street lot and the Broad Street lot. But because that PUD application is tied to that private development in that site plan, both of those would still be required to go through the planning board review process and would still have to go in front of the ZBA to get any variances or special use permits.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore.
Yes.
Resolved that the council authorizes the mayor to sign an agreement with NYSEG impacting tax map parcel ID number 204.1-3.1 to provide new electric services to neighboring properties on the Akey Road. And
Moved by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Kelly. Just a point of discussion in case you're asking what this is and why Akey Road is up. city actually owns a fair number of properties in the town of Plattsburgh. As a matter of fact, you probably heard me say before that of all taxpayers in the town of Plattsburgh, we probably own more property than any other taxpayer. Clinton County and the state may own more than us, but they're not taxpayers, obviously. This is a land we pay taxes on Akey Road. It used to be a landfill site at one time. We now maintain it. So we're essentially a private landowner. Another private landowner has asked us if they can access part of our land to bring electrical service to their private property. So this is granting NYSEG the ability to come across our property to provide that service. Is that a fair summary, Dean and John?
I can probably speak to this.
Okay.
So it's actually part of the reservoir property, which is right next to the Akey landfill.
Actually, you may need to speak to the councilor.
So this property actually is part of the reservoir property, which is right across the road from the old Akey landfill property. What NYSEG is looking to do is basically put 2 poles in. They look like they're going to sit within the road right away, but the guy wires or the guy anchors that support those poles would be put on city property. So they're looking for a 30-foot wide easement. 15 feet to the east of the utility pole would fall into our property. So it's really just affecting a couple road frontage. I think it's 200 and something feet along the road. Not a big impact. It's really just the guy wires that come down and get put into the road or into the ground.
It's not going to block our access at all?
No, we don't have any access to there.
More of it's just an issue of being good neighbors in the town of Plattsburgh.
I can't really see who is that addressing the council. Is that Andrew?
Andrew, yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's just getting off his other gig robbing banks.
Any questions?
Thank you. Any
Thanks,
further
Andrew.
questions on the council? Roll call?
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes.
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
There's no travel request this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Is there any new business or additional council reports?
A question, if Mr. Bissonet's moving up, what's going to happen with his position?
You mean Bassett?
What's that?
This time.
That's okay.
All right.
At this point in time, that would be a decision for the mayor that they elected.
I mean, in my opinion, we don't need to replace Mike Bassett. He was the assistant as part of in my understanding, and this was before my time, was that he was part of a succession plan for when Superintendent Brody would retire. And I think Mike Bassett could be there for a long time. I don't know if we necessarily need to plan as a successor right now, but that's just what I understand.
Any further questions? Any closing public comments of any topic of mutual interest? Ethan?
Yes, there's one individual, CBM, and I'm bringing them in now.
Okay, thank you.
Is it?
Please go ahead. I think you might be muted. Can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Carol.
Carol, you're muted.
No, I'm
I don't believe she's muted. I believe her microphone is having difficulties.
okay.
There you go.
There
Try
it is.
it. Yeah.
Okay, now I can, okay, thank you. Hi, yes, I'm Carol McLean from Iris's Cafe and Wine Bar. And I was basically asking if the city would consider for the winter to allow the downtown restaurants to utilize their parking spaces, a couple parking spaces directly in front of their businesses for the use of short-term curbside pickup for takeout orders. Right now, we're definitely experiencing a reduction in well, we're already limited to the capacity of 50% right now, but we are anticipating that's probably going to decrease again. The governor has stated that he will make a decision on Monday as to whether or not there has to be another reduction, which would possibly go down to 25%, 0% in the city. And it would be really helpful for us to be able to expand our takeout offerings and for customers for convenience and for safety if they didn't actually have to come inside the restaurants and they could just pull up out front and we could quickly deliver the order to them. And that might actually help increase sales. This would be something just specifically for the winter. You know, restaurants are having a tough time right now all across the country. They're closing at record rates and, you know, we really need some help. And, you know, right now in Plattsburgh, a lot of the restaurants on Route 3 and privately owned restaurants, you know, they have their parking lots, which make it a lot easier to arrange for curbside parking or takeout. And so I was hoping that if there was a way they could come up with that would be easy and quick. I was thinking just temporary banners that were literally just put out the day that you need it and they're put away in the evening. So there's still overnight parking. Parking would not be impacted if the downtown businesses were not open. It's also a voluntary thing. So if other restaurants don't want to do it, they don't have to. I have spoken to Sue Walker from the Pepper and also Peter from Aleka's, and they were both really interested in being able to utilize that, you know, just anything right now to help us, you know, make it through the winter. It's definitely been a difficult year. And having the outdoor seating, the expanded outdoor seating was very helpful. And I think if we can just make it through the winter, once we can, you know, have the outdoor seating again, and hopefully there'll be vaccines out there by springtime and people are ready to come back out and go to restaurants. But for now, to get through the winter, it would be really helpful if we could maybe just utilize those spaces again, just on a temporary basis. If the city would maybe consider that, you know, there's whatever, I think there's 11 to 15 downtown restaurants and we could really use the help. So.
I think a similar issue came up earlier with regard to extending the length of the parking. And at that time, the council said they'd be willing to defer to the mayor to simply make that happen since it's something that was only temporary. So if the council seems willing, Dean and I can get together and just figure out some sort of temporary order to allow for temporary parking during pickup hours for the downtown restaurants. So
perhaps
if
just
that's
pickup
fine
sign.
with everybody, then I could just do that as some sort of executive action, being it's of only a temporary nature.
I think that'd be wonderful.
I'd be in favor of that.
Anything we can do to help our downtown businesses. I know our restaurants before COVID were some of our most vibrant businesses. So I don't know how we would enforce it, but I guess those are conversations the mayor can have with DPW and the parking enforcement officer and things of that nature. So I'm in favor of you pursuing that, Mr. Mayor.
So I think I see essentially a consensus here. So maybe Andrew and Mike, you can offer some advice to him and see what we can put in place as quickly as possible. Okay, thank you.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Carol.
Any other individuals like to come address the council? Ethan?
Currently, no hands are raised.
If none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I forgot to mention something. Could I just throw it in here real quick?
Sure.
I was talking with Mayor-elect Rosenquist, And he was asking if we could have the council kind of see if we could remove the 30-minute ban or unsupervised visits. He'd like to meet with more department heads more often.
There's no 30-minute ban on
And
supervised.
he felt like there was a 30-minute ban and he didn't have enough time and
No, there's no ban of a certain
So-
number of minutes at
so
all.
what he'd like to do is just be able to meet with people at their convenience.
He can meet with all of you at your convenience at any time, but if it's regarding staff time, then he is, as with everybody, is asked to coordinate through my office. So we'll be doing that for the remaining 2 weeks of the month.
All right. He's just
But there
worried
certainly
about
is
transition.
no filtering or limitation of any sort to deny access.
All right.
Do you have a motion to adjourn? Move by Councilor Brody, second by Councilor Gibbs, roll call.
Counselor Kelly,
Yes.
Counselor Gibbs,
Yes.
Counselor Brody,
Yes?
Counselor McFarland,
Yes.
Counselor Moore,
Yes.
Thank you all. Have a great week.